Paris, 1925. Victor Lustig was in a hotel room facing the men who had just handed him $200,000, $3 million today. These men, wealthy scrap metal dealers, believed they were buying the Eiffel Tower, the most famous landmark in the world. As Lustig closed the deal, they shook hands, trusting that the deal was complete. Victor Lustig had just pulled off one of the most brilliant scams in history, and he did it twice. But how did Victor pull this scam off? What was the scam, and why did no one stop him? Paris was very much alive in the 1900s. Busy streets, grand architecture, and a piece of history that towered over it all, the Eiffel Tower. But under all of that was the dark side of Paris. Scams, violence, and much more. Victor Lustig was one of the people who lived in the dark side of Paris, fluent in deception and manipulation. By the time he arrived in Paris, he had already scammed millionaires, outsmarted the police, and even tricked Al Capone, one of the most dangerous criminals in history. But his next stunt would be Paris's biggest scam. It all started with a newspaper. One morning, while sitting in a Parisian cafe, Lustig read a small section discussing how the Eiffel Tower was becoming too expensive to maintain. It had been built in 1889 for the World's Fair, but now, decades later, it was starting to rust, and the government was debating whether it should be torn down. But while the rest of Paris read it and moved on, Lustig saw something far greater, an opportunity to become rich. Victor Lustig set his plan in motion. He was going to fake being a government official and sell the Eiffel Tower with his new fake identity. Using his skills in deception, he crafted official-looking government documents, complete with seals and forged signatures. Then came the invitations. Lustig carefully selected 5 of Paris's most prominent scrap metal dealers and sent them exclusive, confidential letters. The government, he claimed, had discreetly decided to dismantle the Eiffel Tower due to its overwhelming maintenance costs. Only a select few have been chosen to bid on the lucrative contract. A week later, at the Crillon Hotel, which had a reputation as a place where diplomatic and political deals were done, Lustig stood in a meeting room, facing the 5 invited businessmen. He said,
"Gentlemen, you are here today because you are among the most respected men in the salvage industry. The French government has an urgent matter at hand, and we need absolute discretion. What I am about to reveal must not leave this room."
Discretion is part of our business, Mr. Lustig. Please continue.
As you may be aware, maintaining the Eiffel Tower has become an unbearable financial burden. The cost of repairs is astronomical. The public would never accept an increase in taxes to preserve it, so we've made a difficult decision. The Eiffel Tower must be dismantled, and you, gentlemen, have the exclusive opportunity to bid on the rights to its iron.
Monsieur Lustig, you mean to tell us that the French government is willing to sell the tower for scrap? This is unprecedented.
Precisely. That is why this process must be handled discreetly. The public would be outraged if word got out prematurely. We must ensure a smooth and quiet transition. You all have 24 hours to submit your bids. Go!
The following day, Lustig reviewed the bids, but he wasn't looking for the highest offer. He was searching for the perfect victim. That victim was André Poisson. Poisson was ambitious but insecure, eager to establish himself as a major player in Parisian business. Lustig sensed his desperation, his need for validation, and so he arranged a private meeting.
Mr. Poisson, I have reviewed the bids, and I must say, your offer is impressive. However, there is one concern.
Yes? What is it? Please tell me.
At this moment, Victor knew he won. The next day, Poisson handed Lustig a briefcase filled with cash. $200,000, the equivalent of $3 million today. As soon as the deal was done, Lustig left Paris immediately. He boarded a train to Vienna, far from the reach of the authorities. But he wasn't running in fear. He was waiting. For days, he scoured newspapers, expecting headlines exposing the greatest con of the century. But nothing appeared. Why? Because Poisson was too humiliated to go to the police. He had been completely fooled, and admitting it would destroy his reputation. So instead, he stayed silent, allowing Lustig to escape without consequence. After Lustig found out Poisson never told the police, he returned to Paris to sell the Eiffel Tower again. Using the same tactics, he contacted 5 new scrap metal dealers, held another secret meeting, and attempted to repeat the con. But this time, his reputation preceded him. One of the businessmen grew suspicious, conducted some background checks, and discovered the entire scheme was a fraud. The police were alerted, and Lustig barely escaped Paris before he could be arrested. But even after fleeing to the United States, Lustig didn't stop scheming. He became one of the most notorious counterfeiters in history, producing fake banknotes so convincing they nearly destabilized the US economy. Eventually, he was caught and sentenced to 20 years in Alcatraz, where he even managed to con Al Capone before finally dying in 1947. Legend has it that inside his prison cell, Lustig kept a postcard of the Eiffel Tower with a handwritten note, sold for 100,000 francs. A final reminder of the greatest scam the world had ever seen. Victor Lustig didn't just con a businessman, he outmaneuvered an entire nation. In a city full of the world's sharpest minds, he orchestrated a scheme so outrageous, so impossible, that no one even thought to question it. But what made Lustig truly dangerous wasn't just his deception, it was his instinct. He knew exactly who to target, how to manipulate, and when to disappear. By the time anyone realized what had happened, he was already gone, leaving behind nothing but whispers of a ghost who had sold the Eiffel Tower